this is a documentary on the liberation of a people. It's also a categorization of the particular individuals who led to the success of this liberation. The factors like visionaries like Toussaint Louverture, the visionary, the warring general Henry Christophe, also Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Boukman Dada, each of these were contributing factors to the success of the Haiti liberation. And the elements that speaks to liberation that resonates in each and every one of us. This message that should be driven home, this legacy that's given to us, gives us a deeper understanding what motivated these individuals, and should send a message to you, what should liberate you to understand the success and the contribution that our forefathers gave for the emancipation of humanity, for liberation and emancipation. This is something that characteristic in each and every one of us. Enjoy, understand, walk away with a deeper understanding of all the essentials that can and should and will liberate a people. This documentary, the Haitian people.
There is something important just to show you. This variety of words, they call it merle in Creole.
They call it what?
Merle.
Male?
They use it to sharpen tools like machetes, knife. You can just slide the edge
to make it
of,
very sharp.
Yeah. So this is we have a lot in this place. So look at this part of the fortress is quite normal, original, and it is 207 years ago.
Look at the red dirt.
Exactly. So it was a mixture of limestone, land ashes, sugarcane waste product that they have used to build this fortress, because it was not the period of cement and sand. So this is the restoration, the upper part. It is concrete. They have mixed cement and sand so that they concrete all the wall like that, as you may see. The block was made in 1984, and you can see the date subscribed on the other one. So, provided that I told you that already, the fort was no more in use. So they have brought the cannon from the place that they were and bring them on their stand.
How many were all together?
13. They are 13. One was outside, and there were 12 here. Like they have been removed, but soon after the restoration, you can see they closed the window. It's because the Minister of Tourism is really interested with the construction, with the restoration of this fortress. Soon they will restore it. And when you go down, you will be able to see the cannons. Let's see the date on this thing. Yeah. Come here. You will see the date of the restoration.
The date of the restoration. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
1984. Under the government of Baby Doc.
Baby Doc.
Jean-Claude Duvalier. Because you know he was still president of Haiti.
Of Haiti, yeah.
Yeah, he left the country in 1986.
Oh, 2 years later.
Yeah, 2 years later. So the two forts which are here, they were built by the General Alexander Pétion, the hero of the independence, like Jean-Jacques Dessalines and Henri Christophe. So you know Haiti has been freed from the French in 1804, but France did not want to recognize the independence of Haiti, and he has always tried to come back just to recolonize the country. Jean-Jacques Dessalines, the first president of Haiti, he was aware of the situation, and he should take a lot of ways just to be sure that Haiti was safe. That's the reason why on April 9th, 1804,
April 9th?
Yeah, he has decreed the fortifications of Haiti, like to build a series of fortresses in the whole country, so that they form a system of defense against them in case they would try to come back. So Alexander Pétion was the West Department governor. He built Fort Dragon for Alexander Pétion. And Henri Christophe was in the north. He built Citadel, Palace 365 doors, Palais Sans Souci. Jean-Jacques Dessalines was in Marchand Dessalines, because Marchand Dessalines was the first capital of Haiti from 1804 to 1806. He has built Fort Décidé, Fort Félicité, and so on. So they have started to build this fortress in 1825, provided that there was a negotiation between France and Haiti when Haiti had paid this indemnity that France has asked to Haiti from Haiti, so that he recognized our independence. This is the reason why they did not ever use the force for fighting.
Oh, my God. Rich, powerful.
Jean-Jacques Dessalines, the military genius, the facilitator that brought liberation to the country of Haiti, Fort Jacques, named after Jean-Jacques Dessalines. It's important to understand the critical contribution that he made to the liberation, his genius, his unifying of a people, and the value that this individual brought to the community. Come with us as we learn more in detail of Fort Jacques.
Jean-Jacques Dessalines was, in my opinion, a military genius because he understood that he didn't only need to secure the parameters of Saint-Domingue, which is now Haiti, but also Santo Domingo, which is now Dominican Republic, because he understood that if he didn't do so by creating these forts and establishing the boundary points, that the French colonial rules as well as the Spanish colonial rules would enter the island of Hispaniola by way of Santo Domingo and then make their way over to Saint-Domingue. So Jean-Jacques Dessalines was very strategic in making sure he secured all the boundary points, including Fort Liberté, which is directly at the port, and Fort Jacmel near Plaine du Nord and Artibonite. So Jean-Jacques Dessalines' military genius as far as strategy and understanding that in order to secure the freedom of the Haitian people and to make sure that the French did not reinstitute slavery, that he secured the boundaries and created forts and battle stations in order to fight any ongoing onslaught or attack.
Toussaint Louverture, the visionary, the man with the vision, the emancipator who thought liberation, dreaming of liberation of the Haiti people, the building block of those who followed him centuries after, people like Marcus Garvey, people like Malcolm X, people like Martin Luther King, people like Elijah Muhammad. These folks that we have to see that spoke to liberation for our people. Why do we as a people not understand the driving spiritual force behind a person like Toussaint Louverture? That spirit should resonate in each and every one of our minds, hearts, and bodies. Toussaint Louverture, the fashioner of independence, the survivors, those driving spirits that's going to move a people. We, as a people, have to understand his spirit resonates in each and every one.
Toussaint Louverture would actually be tricked by Napoleon's brother-in-law, General Leclerc, who was actually in charge of trying to restabilize the island of Hispaniola, mainly the French colony of Saint-Domingue, and reinstituting slavery. So he tricked Toussaint Louverture by telling him he would be coming in to sign a treaty. But once he came in to sign the treaty, he was seized and captured and sent over to the French Alps of Fort de Joux, where he would die of pneumonia and starvation. He survived. I don't know how, but he managed to survive in that cold, damp dungeon for almost 9 months, 9.5 months, where he was more than likely tortured, definitely frostbite, pneumonia, starvation, and you know, if we understand the extremity of racism at that time, was probably beaten and you know, a whole bunch of other things that were done to him, inhumane things that were done to him. But he managed to survive in there for 9 months. But it was because of his sacrifice and I think he even knew he was facing his final straw as far as being captured. But it was because of that sacrifice. I think that's why he made that final speech to the Haitian people, saying, in capturing me, you have only cut the trunk from the tree of liberty. For the roots are numerous and deep, and they shall rise again. And out of one of those roots came a ferocious wartime general, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, who made sure to follow through with what Toussaint had created for over the past 11, 12 years, going on 12 years of fighting for their independence. And that was when Jean-Jacques Dessalines, he exacted that vengeance that we had spoke about earlier, as far as making sure that the French were no longer on the island and claiming the first independent black nation of Haiti on January 1st, 1804. So it's important to understand that Toussaint, who had sacrificed his life knowing that he had left a legacy behind him to follow in making sure that the Haitian people would secure their independence. And after Haiti became an independent nation, that was when General Jean-Jacques Dessalines then made himself Emperor Jean-Jacques Dessalines. But his reign wouldn't last for too long, as he would be beheaded and his body dragged through the streets. But again, these men knew what they were sacrificing when they took up arms and decided to go into battle. Immediately after, that was when King Henry Christophe, and I say king because he was the first king of Haiti, took over the northern region of Haiti. And then that was when the island was split, and Alexander Pétion came and took over the southern region of Haiti, becoming the first president. And then after Henry Christophe would commit suicide, that was the end of that regime. And then that was when we seen Haiti make its transition into trying to sustain itself in being an independent nation.
Boukman Dada, the spiritualist, the voodoo priest who came from Jamaica, the catalyst for liberation, spiritual liberation, social liberation. On that prayer by Boukman Dada, who invoked the God of creation, the God to liberation, that's who he spoke to. The liberation theology that he engaged in to ask for emancipation and liberation and confrontation to the European. That was the driving force behind Boukman. The theology, liberation theology, that was the governing force that exists in each and every one of us. Boukman Dada, the fashioner of liberation, who cried out for God to support the community. And as a result, the people moved, the country moved, as we were moved by the energy and prayer of Boukman Dada.
Judy Boukman was coming from Jamaica, sold to a French plantation owner coming to Haiti. And on his arrival, he worked as an overseer of other slaves and also later on as a coachman, which gave him the ability to go from plantation to plantation and start doing the plot and sending messages through the drums and also through letters and verbally, So Boukman started that revolution. Prior to Boukman, you had Padre Jean and also Macandal, who started the revolution as well, but they were definitely defeated and muffled and executed in public, and which would be the fate of Boukman as well, when he got caught and executed in public. So Boukman and Cecile Fatima on August 21st, 1791, convenes a ceremony at Bois-Caïman, which is Alligator Swamp. And at Bois-Caïman, they converge for a ceremony, which was coined later on a voodoo ceremony, but it was just a a convergence of souls of people to take an oath of freedom. And that oath was done through music, jubilation, dancing, and praising of their God to free themselves from the shackles.
Well, Boukman Dutty, who was a voodoo priestess, was able to use the practice of voodoo, not the voodoo that we know today, the demonized, Americanized voodoo, but the African deity, the spiritual voodoo. He was able to take that practice and use it as a means of communication through the battle drums, through the spiritual hymns, you know, through the dance. He was able to take that and unify not only the Neg Maroon, who had escaped off into the mountains years prior, but unify the Neg Maroons with the slaves on the plantation and bring them under what we understand today as Haiti's national motto, La Union Fat la Force, meaning unity is strength. And he was able to bring them all together in order to first make sure that they had that common communion, and then they would exact what they had discussed in the mountains of Bois-Caïman. But the voodoo that we know today, which shows depictions of, you know, pins and needles and dolls, you know, that was American propaganda to demonize the actual practice of what voodoo really is. And in any spiritual practices, you have a good side of it and you have a bad side of it. But the practice of voodoo during that time was used actually to liberate the slaves, as that was their commonality as far as what they practiced over in Africa and what they brought over with them when they were brought over to the island of Hispaniola. So Boukman Dutty, I give him a lot of credit because he took that spiritual practice, that spiritual deity, and brought all the slaves together to fight under La Union Fat la Force, under a unity, and strengthen the slaves and exact what needed to be done in order to secure their freedom. And they used the battle drum, which we see in front of the Haitian flag in the coat of arms. They also used the maroon horns, as far as the shore horns, the big seashore horns. They used those as trumpets. They also used regular musical instruments, but mainly they used spiritual hymn, which was a codified language that the Africans understood as far as the instructions to make sure that they secure their freedom and make sure that they understood that what is said stays amongst us and can only be interpreted amongst us. So I give Boukman Dutty a lot of credit because he was also a military genius, understanding that they needed to use African spirituality to
we cannot give all credits to just those people. We have to also give credit those that were not written in history. That played very active roles and very important roles. Like I would say once more again, if there was a Jesus for the Haitian people, this was Jean-Baptiste Vixama Le Grand.
Now, I didn't hear that clearly. Did you say if there was a Jesus, it would have been these two people?
If there was a Jesus for the creation of Haiti,
for Haiti,
okay, that ensured that Haiti became a nation, we have to give high honors to this man that sacrificed his life.
And that was the man who, it wasn't a pig, it was the man who sacrificed his life.
It was a human sacrifice. And even though some people will say, oh, human sacrifice for Haitian revolution, oh, that's evil. But if you go into history, you would find there's not a nation that exists that human sacrifice did not participate in their liberation, in their existence. Why? For Haitians, it's evil, and for other people, it's good.
Yes.
A few days ago, I visited the waterfall here in Haiti. Unawareingly upon my arrival, I immediately find myself in a spiritual ritual, voodoo ceremonial worship ground. That moment, I begin to feel the presence of spirits all around me. People were praying in the water. I noticed there were private candlelight rituals as well. At that moment, I could sense an empowering force like nothing I'd ever experienced come over me. And since that day, I have not been quite the same.
We say, and lots of people will say it, Haiti is a magical island. It's a magical space. And they are not saying that just for saying it. It is a reality. And when you travel through Haiti, you will get to many spaces.
The Sansoka Palace was the royal residence of King Henry Christophe of Haiti, Queen Marie Louise, and their 2 daughters. It was the most important of 9 palaces built by the king, as well as 15 chateaux, numerous forts, and sprawling summer homes on his 20 plantations. Construction on the palace started in 1810 and was completed in 1813. It is located in the town of
Sanssouci
Malone.
Palace, located in Plaine du Nord, Artibonite, is a magnificent, majestic palace that King Henry built for himself and for his wife, but it also served as a beginning of his reign as the first king of Haiti. So King Henry Christophe I, he would build numerous other palaces, but that was his main one. And it is in ruin today only because it didn't keep up. The upkeep, I guess, was too much, but it still serves as a reminder of the great accomplishments that the Haitian people were able to create and build, during this time.
This is a gunpowder.
And it seems like it's a pyramid.
Yeah, it looks like a pyramid, but it is a gunpowder.
Oh, okay.
Gunpowder, the storage of the gunpowder.
Oh, okay.
And all this building that is citadel.
Oh.
We start to build this in 1806. That's 2 years after independence.
Amazing.
Just we build this by the order of the Dessalines. Dessalines asked to the officials to build some fort in the mountain top. That after independence, like the hiding place.
Wow.
For that reason, we build this citadel.
Amazing.
Yes, it is very amazing, and it's worth visiting also.
Oh, okay. Well, so I'm interested to take a look in the inside, so we're going to go take a look into the inside of the Citadel. This is amazing.
Oh yes, let's go. Let's go. This weigh 3 tons.
Wow.
That we carry them by hand. We captured this to the ship from Napoleon at Cape Haitian. That many people carry this. That they can shoot 2 kilometers.
You
1
said,
to 2 kilometers.
did you say carry?
Yeah,
we pick up
yeah,
carry?
we carry hand by hand. You know.
Whoa, how many men?
That's probably 20, 30 people. Carry, they use a line. This is a carriage. That's his original carriage to put the kettle on it.
And what are these numbers here? Are these
That
numbers?
is, they have a fabrication numbers you see on
Okay.
it. You know.
So each one of them have a different number?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
And
all those made by those are iron. That's a metal. Is iron.
And where?
Oh yes, they use they put a gunpowder inside. They put the fuse here.
Okay.
You see, and even we put the fire and it exploded.
Oh.
They use the big balls for those.
Oh, okay.
They fill it with the small gunshot inside, Even they shoot them, they explode it like grenade.
Now I don't see an opening here. So was these cannons just put over here to the side temporary? Or
We
where
just
was
put
these
it temporary here, but those cannon models wasn't there. They are somewhere at the Battle of Ramier inside of the citadel.
Wow. Hey. And they all the same?
Yes,
all
all
of
of
the
them
same.
with small green shots. That even they shoot them, they explode it like grenade. That's all those big ones, that's for the mortars. Some of them weigh 25 to 50, 52 pounds. They're very heavy. This cannon, we never shot this cannon, never shot because they never had any eventual attack here. French never come back, English, Spanish neither. But we just put them in case if they had the eventual attack.
And what year are we speaking of?
1806, we have independence in 1804.
Okay.
Just we built this in 1806.
Okay.
That's 2 years after independence.
Walking throughout both Fort Jack and the Citadel, as well as my visit to the Mary Jean Cave that were used as an underground railroad system during the time of the Haitian Revolution, and the waterfall and one of the main spiritual grounds used for voodoo here in Haiti. On arrival, I could immediately feel the spirit and energy of the ancestors. I was there in history.
Toussaint was the first leader here because he was the one who was born slave, but he was set free when he was 33 years old. He was born in 1743, set free in 1776. It was at the same time the American independence. 1776 when he was born, and then when he was set free, when he got his freedom. And after his freedom, he became a slave master. But even though he was a slave master, he was so different from the others because he treated, as a former slaves, he treated his slave well. And Toussaint, after the revolt done in 1791 by Boukman Judy, because Boukman Judy was a voodoo priest leader, Muslim, combined voodoo and Muslim here. He did a big voodoo ceremony in 1791, August the 14th, to call in the slaves. Even though Toussaint was free at that time, he took part in that revolt too. Because even after his freedom, he was very close to the other slaves. That's why at one time he said, I would like to be a black Spartacus. The black Spartacus actually set free to his brothers. And Toussaint, from 1793 to 1802, he was the chief of Saint-Domingue. There was a time he became general of French army, and after that, he was the first black governor here in this country. But as usual, it used to be like the French, or the French, like French people, or even the landowners here couldn't be governors. As usual, the king of France sent the governors here.
And what year are we speaking of?
I was thinking about like period of 1793, 2 years after the revolt done by Boukman Judy. And from 1793 to 1802, but in 1801, Toussaint proclaimed himself governor for life of Saint-Domingue. But at that time, it was 1 year after Napoleon made a coup d'etat in France. When he made that coup d'etat in France, he sent an expedition army to reconquer this country, Saint-Domingue. At that time, Napoleon did the same thing for the other countries, Martinique, Guadeloupe, Guyana. He sent troops to reconquer. But in Haiti, he sent 44,000 soldiers. But there were 3 big battles. Toussaint was the leader at that time who fought against Napoleon expedition army, against Leclerc. Leclerc was the brother of Napoleon that he sent here. After 2 battles, Ravine à Couleuvre, it's like Snake Ravine in Gonaïve, and Crête à Pierrot, Toussaint was caught by Leclerc, was defeated, and he was imprisoned in France for the Joux. That's like Joux mountain in France. He died after 10 months with tuberculosis. The place was so cold. He catch cold, and he died with tuberculosis in France. But after his death, there was like it was the time of Dessalines, Christophe, and Pétion, because there was a union between two categories of people here at that time. They didn't used to be friends before.
And what people was these two people?
I'm talking about the mulattoes and the black.
You know, in this time, we have a revolution in Haiti and a revolution in France together. And England, before, he had a revolution. Around 1776, the US Army sent a letter to the French Army.
Okay.
They asked them for help. They needed help to fight against the British.
Okay.
You know, Haiti was a French army. And the French army, who was in Haiti, they see the slave, they were strong, they can work, they can fight, and they take 1,500 of the slaves and send to the US to help them to fight for the freedom against the British. And the last fight was in Georgia, July 4. And
that's July 4, what year are we speaking of?
1776.
1776.
And Henri Christophe was the youngest soldier.
Okay.
He had 12 years old. 12 years old. He was a drummer. He played the tom-tom.
Okay.
But in 2012, we have a group of Haitians, and they sent a report to the mayor in Georgia to allow them to have a monument of the Haitian soldier. Henri Christophe became a hero after they were killed Jean-Jacques Dessalines. And you know, Jacques Dessalines is the one who did the last fight, and at Vertières and the north, and that's where they do the last fight. November 18, 1803 was the last fight between the slave and the French army. And 2 years later, and they're gonna kill Jean-Jacques Dessalines. And the island, we have 3 presidents or 2. Some books say like.
It's most important that we must always remember and not forget the important role Haitians played in the Civil War against the Confederate States. After being brought to America in 1776 in Savannah, Georgia, to help the abolishment of slavery in America, slaves freeing slaves. Just imagine a little 12-year-old drummer boy, Henry Christophe, and thousands of other Haitians helping to win the war for the independence of the slaves in America. And upon their return to Haiti, they won the war against France for their own independence. Later on, the little drummer boy, Henry Christophe, will become the first president of Haiti, 1807 to 1811. And in 1811 to 1820, the first king of Haiti.
C'est lui-même dans le cas là, c'est parti ça de déjà de c'est lui-même, plus tard nous va regarder lui. Et plus tard encore, le niveau dedans, nous pouvons parler des roches calcaires, roches métamorphoses, nous allons parler des guano. Et puis nous allons parler dedans, mais c'est là nous vivons, c'est parti ça seulement nous capable de dire. Et puis ça nous devons faire, nous avons demandé tout pour nous pas jeter bidon de l'eau. L'enfin boire pas jeter bidon de l'eau dedans parce qu'il faut nous faire ce site là, nous pas jeter, on a retourner avec eux et n'a demandé tout pour nous pas casser concrétion yo, et puis pas écrit sur paroi yo. Moi c'est si me dit ça nous capable dire pas écrit sur paroi yo parce que nous voulons protéger
The United States and the Haitian Revolution, 1791 to 1804. It had been told during the time of the Haitian Revolution Runaway slaves used the 2.5-mile Grotte Marie-Jeanne cave as an underground railroad system to overpower the French army. Today, the cave is still being used for shelter during storms and hurricanes in Haiti by the locals.
People in America really believe that the earthquake was man-made, that it's some type of a radar or some kind of way they triggered the earthquake here in Haiti.
I experienced something that I had never experienced in my life. There was this big sound like a generator, a gigantic. Okay? For hours, for about at least half an hour, I'm listening to this sound. And I tried to find out where this sound was coming from. And I could not pinpoint where this sound was coming from. And finally I realized that that sound was coming from everywhere. And 2-3 hours later, there was the earthquake.
Oh, so
now,
you were the one for hours before the earthquake.
Right. Now, I can only talk about the experience that I had. I cannot say definitely that it was that generator move, that sound, that vibration that I heard and felt, okay, for not a simple short time, but at least half an hour to about an hour, okay, and could not pinpoint the sound, and finally I realized that the sound was coming from everywhere. That's why I couldn't pinpoint. This is the only truth that I can say. Okay. It's only the Greek scientists.
We'd like to say thank you to Michael Christopher, whose dedication on the story of the black diaspora, the contributions of the legacies that exist from the islands of Haiti, from Mexico, and throughout the world, the story of the black community. His dedication, his commitment to educate and empower is a value that we in the community really appreciate. And his commitment to the truth, speaking to the spirit of the truth, to educate, the legacy that he's presenting to the community. We're grateful to have a person who's dedicated for empowerment, for education, for the community. Mr. Christopher, we thank you, and we continue to reveal these stories, share these stories. It will empower each individual, the community, and the world about the significance and contribution to our humanity as a people. Thank you. May you continue to grow and explore and reveal and share and educate. We, from the community, salute you. We honor you.
We recently watched a documentary on the biography of Haiti and learned about the Haitians who were brought over to Savannah, Georgia in 1779 to help fight a losing battle between the British and the American soldiers.
What's crazy is that it was never written in the history books or taught in school about King Henry Christophe and the thousands of other Haitian soldiers who were sent over and were responsible for helping win the American Revolution.
We want to thank Mr. Christopher for the work he is doing to educate us about the rich history of Haiti.
History is very important because if the people do not know their history, then they can't really function well in the present, and in that you're not assured of a good future. Mr. Christopher's work has been so important in what I've learned from him that we need not only to know more about Haiti through his efforts, but we need to implement it in our understanding and eventually move it into our educational systems to transform the minds of people for a better understanding of what history is all about. We need to understand that the great leaders of history, Toussaint, also Bookman and others, have led to bringing us a greater understanding how freedom needs to be achieved on another level. We here in America, with a proper understanding of what Mr. Christopher is doing, can chart out and carve out a new day of understanding for our own freedom here in America. The time has come to see Mr. Christopher as an integral part in what we need to do to challenge ourselves to a better understanding, to be a more complete people. His efforts will transform not only his works amongst the Haitian people, but bring African Americans on board for a better understanding how their relationship can be complete as a people by following his leadership. We're very fortunate to have him amongst us at this time.